The worst thing you can do is stay loyal to someone who keeps showing you you're not important. You feel it every time she pulls away, every time she rolls her eyes, every time she looks at her phone instead of you. You tell yourself it's nothing, but your gut knows better. She used to care. Now, you're an option, a convenience, a placeholder. You keep hoping it'll change. You think if you're more patient, more nice, more giving, she'll come back. But it never works. She's not confused. She knows what she's doing. And deep down, you do too. Comment, "I deserve respect," if you're done being blind to your worth. This video is your reset, not to fix her, but to rebuild you, to make you untouchable to anyone who doesn't see your value. And by the end of this, you will never be the same again. Number 1. Don't chase her attention. When someone pulls away emotionally, the urge to chase is almost automatic, like a reflex built from fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough, fear that somehow you caused the shift, and that if you just try harder, prove yourself more, fix what you think went wrong, they'll come back and things will feel like they used to. But that belief is an illusion that keeps you locked in a losing game, where the more you give, the less you're valued. Because chasing someone who no longer values you doesn't win their respect. It erodes yours. And the truth is brutal but freeing. They changed, not because you failed, but because they stopped seeing your worth. Maybe because you gave it away too easily. Maybe because you put them on a pedestal, hoping they'd finally see you, appreciate you, return your loyalty with depth. But instead, they got used to being your priority while making you their backup plan. And the more you gave, the more they withdrew. Not because they needed space, but because they knew you'd stay. And that's the harsh reality of human nature. We don't value what we don't have to work for. So when you keep chasing, texting first, checking their stories, replying instantly, rearranging your schedule while they keep canceling last minute, what you're really doing is training them to believe you'll tolerate anything, that your boundaries are flexible, that you'll keep coming back no matter how little they show up. And once that becomes their belief, they stop trying, because effort is reserved for what we fear losing, and no one fears losing what is always available. So if you're sitting there wondering why she doesn't call like she used to, why she stopped caring about your opinions, why your wins don't excite her and your pain doesn't move her, it's because she already sees herself as above you, because you handed her the role of your emotional anchor without demanding mutual energy in return. And every time you tolerated distance, accepted cold replies, overlooked the missed calls and dry energy, you reinforced that role. And this isn't about bitterness, it's about brutal clarity, because you can't be respected by someone you let walk all over you emotionally. And the solution starts not with trying to win her back, but with asking why you gave her the power to define your worth in the first place. And from that question, you'll find your next move. Pull back, not to play games, but because someone who doesn't meet you halfway doesn't deserve to meet you at all. And that begins with stillness, not noise, with pausing your energy and watching what happens when you stop feeding the dynamic. And what you'll see is telling. Either she'll step forward with genuine effort, or she'll disappear because the illusion of power is gone. And in both cases, you win, because your peace and dignity return to where they always belonged, with you. And this is where Stoic clarity lives, not in reacting, but in observing, not in shouting your value, but in walking in it, without needing it confirmed by someone who already stopped seeing it. And if you're wondering how to stop chasing, the answer is brutal honesty. Stop lying to yourself about her potential. Stop writing love stories in your mind based on who she was at the start, and start seeing who she is now, because the gap between reality and your fantasy is where your pain lives. And when you close that gap, the pain ends. And that's when you stop chasing, because you finally realize the person worth chasing is the person you've been neglecting this whole time. You. And once you pour into your goals, your health, your mission, and your own peace, something strange happens. You become less reactive, more grounded, harder to shake, and she feels that shift. And maybe she'll come back, maybe she won't. But by then, you'll no longer care, not out of spite, but because you've outgrown needing breadcrumbs from someone who couldn't see the feast of value you brought to the table. And when you become that person, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't adjust himself to be seen, you no longer fear loss, because you now carry something more powerful than attention, self-respect. And that becomes your filter, your guide, your standard. So the next time someone pulls away, you won't panic, you'll pause, and in that pause, you'll reclaim yourself. Not because it's easy, but because you finally understand the truth. The person who chases loses their value in the eyes of the one they chase. And the person who walks away with clarity creates the space where real respect is either born or the illusion dies. Either way, you win, and that win begins the moment you stop chasing those who treat your presence like it's disposable, because from that moment forward, you become unavailable to anything less than alignment. And that's how you rebuild your worth. Not through them, but through discipline. And that discipline becomes your strength, your peace, your standard. And once you live by that, everything changes forever. And if that message hit you where it hurts but also woke something up inside you, then don't stop here. Because everything you just felt, the clarity, the strength, the hard truth that you know you've needed to hear for a long time, it's just the beginning. And that's exactly why the Stoic relationship blueprint exists, built for men who are ready to stop chasing and start leading, filled with timeless Stoic principles that will flip your mindset and your life in ways you didn't think were possible. And now the audiobook version is here, so you can carry this life-changing knowledge with you while walking, training, or even just thinking. And the beauty of it is, once it's yours forever. Something you can come back to every time the world tries to pull you off course. Something that reminds you who you are and how far you've come. So the next time you feel weak, overlooked, confused, or tempted to settle for less, you'll have the blueprint to bring you back. And it's waiting for you right now in the comments. All that's left is to take the step your future self is begging you to take. Number 2. Let her feel your absence. One of the deepest mistakes people make is thinking presence is what wins love. Thinking the more available they are, the more consistent, the more they show up, the more they'll be appreciated. But the opposite often happens, especially when you're giving that presence to someone who doesn't respect it, who doesn't reciprocate, who uses your consistency as a crutch to never change. And what people forget is that human nature often only reflects when something is removed, when the comfort is taken away, when the default is no longer guaranteed. And this is especially true when you deal with someone who's grown entitled to your presence, who expects your replies without earning your energy, who gets your emotional labor without giving emotional investment. And the most powerful thing you can do isn't raise your voice, send a long message, or even beg for change. It's to remove yourself silently, not out of bitterness, but out of realization, because silence says what words cannot. It says you're no longer willing to pour into someone who only takes, who only notices your worth when they fear losing access to it. And absence isn't about being petty, it's about being precise with your energy, because you have to understand that people don't think about what they have constant access to. They don't value the tap that never stops flowing. But when you turn off that flow, when your presence becomes rare, when your attention is no longer free, when your emotional investment becomes selective, suddenly the room gets quiet. Suddenly they have to sit with themselves and face the void your presence used to fill. And in that void they either reflect or replace, but either way, you get your answer. And it's better than confusion, because when you're always present, they never have to decide how they really feel. They can just float in your energy and pretend things are fine while giving you nothing. But when you step back, they either rise to meet you or reveal that they never intended to. And both outcomes are clarity, and that's the point. Clarity over confusion, alignment over attention, peace over patterns that drain you. And the truth is, the longer you overstay in situations that devalue you, the more damage you do to your own identity, because every time you tolerate less than you deserve, you make it harder for your soul to recognize your own worth. And the cure isn't in fixing them, it's in disappearing from dysfunction. And watch what happens when you no longer show up, when you stop being the one who checks in, who reaches out, who fixes the vibe. And in that silence, you find something powerful. Self-respect, because presence is a gift. And when it's given to the wrong people, it becomes a burden. But when you become selective, when you treat your time and attention like currency, people either invest or step aside. And that's how you filter who's real. Because those who only liked you when you were convenient disappear when you become intentional. And those who never deserved your presence are the first to notice your absence. And that absence teaches more than arguments ever could. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, it will trigger doubt. Yes, it may cause loneliness. But that's the space where healing lives. Because that space teaches you that solitude is not punishment, it's power. And that's what most people miss. They think pulling away is weakness, but in reality, pulling away is clarity. It's the moment you realize your peace matters more than proximity. Your self-worth matters more than being needed, and your value doesn't increase by proving your loyalty to someone who can't match it. So let her feel it. Let her feel what it's like to not have your attention readily available, to not have your energy as her emotional pillow, to not be able to count on your responses while giving you silence, and let her sit in the emptiness she created. Because if she really values you, she'll feel that gap and fill it with effort. Not manipulation, not breadcrumbs, but real effort. And if she doesn't, then you didn't lose her. You lost the illusion of who you wanted her to be, and you gained the reality that sets you free. And that's where your next chapter begins, not in a dramatic exit, but in a quiet reset, where your value is no longer up for debate, and your presence is earned, not given. And the people who deserve you will know it. Not because you told them, but because you showed them. And that's the shift, from being someone who waits to be valued, to someone who decides that their energy is no longer available to those who waste it. And when you live like that, you stop chasing closure and start living in peace, because your absence does more to reveal the truth than your presence ever could. And that's not bitterness, that's evolution. Number 3. Don't argue for respect. The moment you find yourself trying to convince someone to respect you, you've already stepped out of alignment with your own worth, because respect, real respect, is never requested. It's never demanded through long texts, emotional outbursts, or desperate explanations. It's either naturally present in how someone treats you, or it's absent, and no amount of emotional effort on your end can generate it from someone who doesn't feel it deep down. And that's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid facing, because we think that if we just explain our intentions better, if we just show how loyal, kind, and forgiving we are, the other person will finally get it and love us the way we deserve. But what's really happening is we're trying to teach someone how to value something they already decided wasn't worth much. And when you're in that position, constantly justifying your emotions, explaining why you're upset, pointing out how they've hurt you, hoping they'll care, you're not gaining ground, you're losing it, because every word you say to defend your position is received not as a sign of strength, but as proof that you still care more than they do, that you need their validation to feel stable. And once they feel that imbalance, it's over, because the dynamic has shifted from mutual respect to quiet control, and they now know that no matter how much they withhold, how cold they act, how distant or dismissive they become, you'll still be there trying to explain why you matter. And the tragedy is that most people don't realize how much they're giving away in these moments. They don't see that by arguing for basic decency. They're communicating that disrespect is negotiable, that their boundaries are flexible, and the other person subconsciously logs that in their system. That you're someone who talks a lot about self-worth but doesn't act on it. That you'll cry, get mad, write paragraphs, vent to your friends, but still stay, still show up, still give your body and your energy and your time to someone who's already mentally checked out. And the solution is not in becoming louder, it's in becoming still. It's in letting your silence carry more authority than your explanations ever could. Because when you stop arguing and start acting, the entire dynamic changes, and not because the other person suddenly has a moral epiphany, but because your behavior sends a message louder than words. A message that says you've reached a point where your peace costs more than being understood. Where your value no longer needs to be proven to anyone who can't see it. And from that place, you move different. You don't try to fix. You don't try to please. You don't sit in rooms where your presence feels like a burden. And you don't argue with people who only listen to respond, not to understand. Because life has shown you the same lesson over and over. That those who truly respect you never need long speeches to correct their behavior. They see your standards and adjust or exit, and both are acceptable. Because when you stop arguing, what you're really doing is taking your power back, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a quiet, grounded, stoic way that tells the world you are no longer emotionally available for disrespect. And you know what that does? It filters your circle. It sharpens your clarity. It teaches you who is real and who was only there to benefit from your lack of boundaries. And that lesson is priceless, because respect is not something you teach with your voice. It's something you command with your presence. And the more you try to explain what should be obvious, your value, your standards, your pain, the more you drain yourself trying to educate someone who already knows they're hurting you. They just don't care enough to stop. And that's the line you have to draw. The point where you stop caring whether they understand, where you stop needing closure, stop hoping they'll change, stop trying to be seen, and start living in a way that makes you undeniable. Not because you shout louder, but because you walk away first. Because you build a life so grounded in peace and purpose that no amount of temporary affection or superficial charm can lure you back into emotional confusion. And this is what real strength looks like. Not passive tolerance disguised as patience, not emotional availability wrapped in desperation, but calm detachment rooted in deep self-respect. And that's what you become when you stop arguing. Because now your time is not spent trying to convince someone of your worth. It's invested in building a life where the only people who get access to you are the ones who never needed to be begged to act right. And if you're stuck in a loop where you're constantly defending yourself trying to make them, see how much you care, how deeply you love, how much you've been hurt. Stop, take a step back, and ask yourself this. Why am I working this hard to make someone respect what should already be clear? Why am I exhausting myself to be seen by someone who refuses to look? And if the answer is fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of starting over, then that's where your healing begins, because no amount of explanation will ever compensate for a lack of self-worth, and no person is worth losing your peace over. And once you see that clearly, once you understand that begging for respect is beneath you, you never go back. You don't raise your voice. You raise your standards. You don't send more texts. You delete the thread. You don't ask why they changed. You accept they did. And you move forward with your head high and your energy intact, because life is too short to keep explaining yourself to people who don't listen, and your value is too high to be debated by someone who treats your pain like it's negotiable. So from this moment forward, don't argue for respect. Walk like it's already yours. Number 4, stay emotionally cool. There comes a point where you realize that not everything deserves your reaction, That every time you raise your voice, send that long message, or break down explaining how much something hurt you, you're leaking power, because the people who trigger you already know what they're doing, and if they can shift your emotions with a simple glance, a dismissive tone, or strategic silence, then they know they control you. And the person who controls how you feel controls how you think, how you move, and what you tolerate. So when you keep reacting, even when you're justified, you're stepping into a role where they are the puppet master and you're the one performing. And while you may tell yourself you're being honest, transparent, expressive, or passionate, what you're really doing is proving that your internal state depends on how they treat you externally. And that's a dangerous position to live from, because now you're vulnerable to every mood swing, every change in tone, every ignored text. And that puts you in a cycle where your peace is always borrowed and never owned. And that's why staying emotionally cool is not about being emotionless or robotic. It's about creating enough space between what happens and how you respond, so that you never hand your power over to someone who tests you. And when someone disrespects you, the reaction they expect is the one you must deny, because nothing shakes people more than a person who should be angry, who should be upset, who should be reactive, but chooses not to be, not because they're weak, but because they've trained themselves to be steady, and that steadiness is rare, it's powerful, it commands respect without needing to say a word. And when you respond to drama with silence, to insult with indifference, to manipulation with immovable peace, you're teaching the world how you handle pressure, and more importantly, you're teaching yourself that not every hit requires a swing. Some hits are designed to test if you'll throw away your frame to meet someone at their level. And when you refuse to do that, you rise, and the ones trying to pull you into chaos realize they're powerless against someone who won't take the bait. And that's what emotional coolness gives you: leverage, clarity, control. Because now you're no longer operating from impulse, you're operating from wisdom. And that wisdom tells you that peace is not something you hope they give you. It's something you protect by refusing to be pulled into games designed to distract you from your value. And this applies in every interaction. Whether she ignores you, tests you, provokes you, or pretends not to care, your job is not to explain, react, or validate the setup. Your job is to observe, decide, and move accordingly. And most people never develop this control because they never sit long enough with discomfort to realize they don't need to react. They just need to recognize the pattern and decide not to repeat it. And once you see that, you become unshakable, not because life or people stop trying you, but because you stop giving them the power to define how you feel. And that's where true emotional strength lives, not in how loud you get, but in how calm you stay. Number 5. Keep control of your life. If your world starts and ends with how she treats you, whether she responds, whether she compliments you, whether she makes time for you, then you've already handed over the keys to your internal stability to someone who may not even know how to drive their own life. And that's the kind of dependency that destroys your confidence, because now you're not living for your mission, your purpose, your path. You're living for her reaction. And once she becomes the emotional center of your existence, you've made her your authority, your anchor, your definition of success and failure. And that's not love. That's emotional slavery dressed up as connection. And what most people don't realize is that the more you orbit someone who's not even centered themselves, the more you drift from your own core, and suddenly you're waking up wondering why you feel lost, drained, uninspired, and the answer is simple. You're building your day around someone who isn't building anything with you. And if your happiness depends on whether someone calls, texts, or validates you, then your entire identity is on lease. And when that lease ends, so does your sense of self. And the only solution to this is to recenter your life around what actually lasts: your goals, your progress, your principles, your health, your money, your discipline. And when you do that, You no longer chase approval because you're busy building a reality where you approve of yourself. And that's not selfish, that's survival. Because if you don't fill your own cup, you'll be forever trying to get sips from someone else's. And when they stop pouring, you starve. And that's why you need your own foundation, your own plan, your own rhythm. Because once you start keeping promises to yourself, once you start stacking wins daily, waking up early, training your body, developing skills, staying consistent, you start feeling powerful in ways no external relationship can provide. And from that power comes detachment, not coldness, but clarity. The kind of clarity that makes it easy to say no to disrespect, because your life is already full, and you don't need to tolerate breadcrumbs when you're busy baking your own bread. And now, when someone enters your life, they're not your focus. They're a potential addition to an already complete system. And if they add value, great. If not, they're simply not qualified to stay. And that mindset changes everything, because now you're no longer operating from fear of losing someone, but from confidence in who you are without them. And when that happens, you stop being manipulated, stop being drained, stop being second-guessed, because people can feel when you're whole, and they treat you accordingly. And if they don't, you remove them without hesitation, not because you're bitter, but because you're busy. Busy becoming everything you promised yourself when you were tired of being average, tired of waiting, tired of feeling like your life only moves when someone else gives you permission. And from this space, you no longer need her to text back, to come through, to be present, because you've taken full responsibility for the direction of your life, and that's not something anyone can take from you. And the longer you stay here, the stronger you get, because momentum builds and self-respect compounds, and now you're living with purpose, not pain, with direction, not distraction, and the right people feel that and move accordingly, and the wrong ones fade because they can't thrive where standards are high, and that's exactly how it should be. Number 6, let her go if needed. The hardest truth you will ever face is that the person you wanted most is sometimes the person you must release completely, not because you didn't love them enough, not because you didn't try hard, wait long, forgive deeply, or stay loyal through the most confusing seasons, but because their presence is no longer healthy, and their access to you is costing you more than their absence ever could. And letting go isn't about hate. It's not about revenge. It's not about proving a point. It's about preserving your soul, because if every interaction with her leaves you second-guessing yourself, walking on eggshells, explaining basic expectations, or wondering why you feel like you're the only one trying, then you're not in love. You're in a performance, and you're playing a role you weren't born to play. A role where you silence your needs to keep the peace, where you tolerate inconsistency just to feel some connection, where you explain your worth hoping she'll finally wake up and treat you like she did in the beginning. But that version of her was either temporary or conditional, and now you're living in the space between who she used to be and who she really is, and you're hoping the past comes back instead of accepting that the future with her may never improve. And that's the part that breaks people. The idea that letting go means losing everything, but in reality, holding on is what's draining you, delaying your growth, and making you question who you are. And that's why the most powerful move you can make is walking away without needing closure, without needing validation, without needing her to understand. Because maybe she won't, and maybe she doesn't care, and maybe she's already replaced you emotionally, and if that's the case, every extra day you stay hoping she'll change is a day you deny yourself the healing that comes from finally choosing yourself. And yes, it will hurt. And yes, it will feel like failure. And yes, you'll miss her. But that's not a sign to go back. It's a sign that you're detoxing from dysfunction, and that takes time. But eventually you'll see that the peace you gain is greater than the comfort you lost. And from that place, you rebuild, not quickly, but deliberately, brick by brick. boundary by boundary, decision by decision. And every time you choose not to reply, not to chase, not to fold, not to second guess, you get stronger. And eventually, you'll look back and realize that losing her wasn't the tragedy. Staying with her would have been, and that's when you finally understand what letting go really means. It's not about walking away from someone else. It's about walking back to yourself. And when you do that, the pain becomes purpose. The lessons become leverage, and your life starts moving again, this time in the right direction, with people who see you clearly, treat you right, and never make you feel like you have to earn basic respect. And that's when you realize, letting her go didn't break you, it freed you. If you've made it this far, then deep down you know the truth. You've been conditioned to tolerate disrespect, to chase validation, to water yourself down just to keep someone who stopped seeing your value. And society won't teach you how to reclaim your power, because a man who knows his worth can't be controlled. And that's why the Stoic relationship blueprint was created, to arm you with the timeless Stoic principles they hope you never discover. The mindset that makes you unfazed, clear, and untouchable. And now it's finally available as an audiobook, so you can carry this power with you, while walking, training, or just thinking. And once you have it, it's yours for life. No more excuses, no more confusion, just the truth you've been starving for. Hit the comments right now and type, "I choose my peace," if you're ready to grab it. And if this message lit something inside you, like the video, subscribe, and help get this truth in front of more men before they waste another year chasing people who don't respect them.